Hi guys, I wanna make a review of Django Content Settings version 0.9, the current version. And in order to do so, I create a very small project called CS Test. It is part of Content Settings project. So after the video, you can play with the project yourself as well. This is a very simple project with one app called Songs, and with two models, artist and song, and with simple template view, which is like simple as that, and simple view with some like logic, and I decided it will be math logic, so it will assume two values that can be passed through the get parameter of the URL. So simple as that. And also I am using a very simple makefile, so it will be easier for you, like easier for me to start and run the server, migrate the data, and jump into the shell. And if I will need to show you something uh, in the Django shell. So let's go and start project and see what we have right now. Make CS test. So that's started server, CS test migrate the data, and shell jump in it. So we will finish here. So what we have? First we have Django admin panel, nothing unusual, no artist here, one user, we will not gonna use it, and that's it. Nothing special. The page sum should the simple HTML, nothing usual as well. Math work as expected. 11 plus 1 will be 12. We can change to 1, we can change to 5, whatever. It kind of works. So let's go and set up the Django content settings so I can show you how does it work. So the first thing first, you need to install Django content settings. I'm not gonna do it. The project is using the content settings from the repo. And by the way, I will do some reference in the content settings source code, as I'm still working with the documentation. So don't worry if I'll jump back and forth between project changes and content settings if I will need to explain you something like types, how the types works, how the data time works type, and so on and so on. So that will be one of the things of this video. So this part you should do yourself. I'm not gonna do it during this video. So the next part is installing actually content settings. Also, while I'm installing the content settings in the project, I want to make sure you understand that English is not my first language, so probably there will be some mistakes during the explanation, but I hope that's not gonna ruin the actual thing I'm trying to explain. So the first thing you need to add to installed apps content settings, obviously. Then you will need to add content settings in the context processor. Here you are. And that's pretty much it. If you wanted to use APIs of content settings, you will need to add this thing as well. I will add it, so since eventually I'm gonna use it. So yep, that's already installed here. Sorry for that. And that's pretty much it. Your content settings should be configured fine. After that, you can stop your server and make migrate. So it's installed all of the models that content settings required, and we can go and check how it looks into your database. So no records, no way to add the records, search line, history also empty. So the pages didn't change as well. So the next thing you need to do is to set up a content settings file. So the content settings file is the file where you actually store your settings for the project, and it uses content settings.py and can be added in any and every app of your project, right? So it's like your first content settings file is ready. The only thing I wanted to make sure is to restart the server in order so the server understand that we have one more file for tracking, and you will see in the dynamic how the things are changed and how it's different. So let's go and create the first content settings variables, and it's pretty much easy. You need to choose the type of the settings. I will use the very simple string, and that will be a title of the site. And let's say simple string my site. We have this. That's it. You have already content setting installed. Now you can use it in your code and in your templates as context manager for the templates was installed. So let's use it in template. So all of the content settings are under content settings variable and title. That's it. And after that, this page should be changed to my site. Nothing unusual. You can go and change my site or my awesome site. So let's give him so this is how it, like, you can change it right away, but that's kind of thing for local development. But if you have this title installed and it's like stored right now here, right? This is the variables is using. But in fact, this is actually the default value for variables that will be used during the migration. And let me show you how it works. We do a migrate again. We do like simple manage by migrate, and we see that title was created. So now let's get back to the run server, and we see our awesome site. Now, like, awesome is too fancy, remove it, and it doesn't work. The reason is because it already sync with database, and right now after that the variable will be used from the database, and there will be awesome at the time, and at the time when we migrate, so the my awesome site will be used. Also, it's like explains you like this is actually a string. So let's go and change it here right now. And now we have this M site or my songs. Okay, so since after that your variable is part of the Django, and that when you release the project you will be able to change variables into Django admin, and they will be reflected into on your site. So that's it. That's pretty much very basic using of content settings, except that there are a ton of, like, not tons, but a lot of different types are supported for the Django content settings. So for example, you can do a simple int, and for example it will be days without fail, and it will be simple int, and the default value, even it's int, it always should be text, the text that will eventually be converted to the int value. And let's do the migrate right away. We understand already how it works. We will see how it created. And so yeah, right now we have days without fail, and it has any number. So it has an explanation what's the type. And since it's not the very basic type as a string, it also has a link with small three dots. Those are explanation that's mostly for developers, just to remind you what's the type of this variable. Also, in order to help your navigation into variables like easier, we also have this thing called, let me show you, help. You can add a help for your variables, such as, for example, it will be title of the site, and that will be how many days without fail, right? The thing is, you update the variables and you need to do the migrate once again. It says those variables are not created, those are adjusted. So let's go and see. So now we have also some kind of an explanation of how these variables are works. Also, every variable has a history. So even like, for example, it shows that my site currently the default value, it was changed to my song, so I can change to default value again. And also it has a history where I can see that the add one change it twice, right? To M site, to my sign, to my song, and that's like the help was changed as well. So here you can kind of track why and how your variables were changed. Another thing is HTML. You can also create variable of HTML, and from one point, nothing unusual, just in HTML, but I wanted to show you something that variables like HTMLs give you in additional, like for example, it will be after title, let's say simple HTML, let's leave it empty, and help will be the HTML goes right after the title. And we can go and set it up here right away. Content settings after title. Nothing changed because it was empty by default. We can go and do migrate again. So it create a new title, then go to CS test. And that means that it should be created here after title. And the HTML, it actually gives you a preview of the value that will be used. So some type, like for example, the title, nothing to preview. It's like what you see is what you get. But HTML, it's kind of different, like from what you see. So that's why a lot of types that we support in Django Content Settings have some kind of preview panel where you can see the actual data that you will be used on the site, so you can make sure that the changes you made are actually valuable and reflect what you are actually wanted to do. So the preview serves this purpose. Hi, we have some songs here, okay, and let's go and save it, and that's right away reflects it here. We doing just fine. And also, you know what, we have one variables left, days without fall, and I want to go and add it here as well. I'll make it in the days without fail, content settings, something like that. 5 days without fail. Yep. You see, we're already designing the site, but the whole content will be managed here. So, oh, by the way, since 5, it's also kind of what you see is what you get, but there might be confusion and we might see the errors right away and we can see the result. So it's easy and kind of fun. So let's do 7 days without fail. Awesome. Now I've just show you how the variable works with the Django templates. So I just have this content settings variable and I can use it all over the place. But what if you want to use the content settings in your code? And the example is here. You will probably not going to use this one. In URLs we have exactly for this purpose we have mass view that has some like code logic, let's say, and as a reminder, this is the URL and this is the logic you wanted to support. So let's go and import from content settings conf, import content settings. This is the variable that will be used the same way as we use it here, but in code. And that will be, for example, we will multiply b by content settings. I will copy, so I'm just worried that I will mistype somewhere and we will. So you see that right now we have, and it works, right? You have a content settings and you have a variable that's inside of this content settings and it works fine. But what if you want to use the variable but it's not inside of the code that's running right now, but inside of, for example, default attributes. For example, we will have this multi and save it here, right? Those are kind of basics of Python, but that's important for you to understand how this kind of thing works. But for just in case, let's assume that this function, this like attribute, gets the value that you have in context settings for days without fail, right? But this value will be, the system will get this value at the time when this function will be defined and save it into multi, and that's it. So what would be different in that case, I will show you. You see days without fail, and let's say change it to 3. And right now here we see 3, but here we still have a 7. We have 7, right? So this value hasn't been changed. In that case, we have a lazy prefix for variables, and in that case, this variable has the lazy value or proxy object will be returned for the multi, and then this proxy object will be used for the variables. So right now it's 3, but you can trust because your server has been restarted and all of the variables has been resetted. Let's go and change it to some other values, for example to 4. Yeah, I know, I don't know much of the numbers. I have 3, 4 and 7. Let's see, yep, now it works. Now the lazy settings are using for the multi, and we are free to use it this way. Easy and sweet. Now the next thing I wanted to show you very quickly is data time types. Actually, what we showed so far is like everything pretty much you need to know. Those kind of functionality covers like 90% of your needs in the project. You have variable that you can use in code, you have variable you can use in template, and you can play with those values into Django, and Django will make sure that those variables are applied in the specific type, and that should be enough for you. And by the way, if you wanted to see what kind of those types are like very easy, like for example, we have a pretty massive type simple string, as it's like a very basic type and it has a lot of pretty empty function. But for example, simple HTML, it's mix HTML mixing and text. Text is just the changing of widget and widget attributes. So the URL as well, just a field, email, simple int. We just change the field and explain Django that it has a Python preview, so the value will be previewed as the Python attribute. Simple bool values and so on and so on, decimal, password, and so on. We have like different kind of types, and the reason why I explain it to you is for you to understand how easy those types can be created for you. So in your content settings here, you can define some new type and then use it in your variable, and it will be fine, it will work. So let me show you one more variable type, such as data time, and let's use a very simple data time, like we have data time string. Let's use a data string. Let's go back to the variables, and now we need to import a new type. Date string, and it will be we will have a start date, and it will be date string. Let's say it will be 2022. What's the date today? 24, sorry. 02/11. And then a help text will say the date when the site started, right? Okay, let's go and again make migrate first. Again, start date synced. And you know what, let's add it into the template again. Let's started at content settings start date. Okay, and okay, and you see that this format is chosen by the Django, not by you. That's but you use the format you wanted to use. Let me show you. So here is the start date. This is the help text that you put into the variable, the date when the site started, and that's also part of the help text that explains you what kind of date you are able to use for the date. This is actually taken for Django, so feel free to use any of those types. That's pretty much cool. And also when it has a Python preview, so it shows you the actual Python variable that will be used for the start date, and that's pretty cool. The next thing I wanted to show you is how you navigate in your through your variables. So for example, you have just a start, or like if you're curious, start, that's it. You have your search line to search variables, help text, text, and whatever. And we also have a tag panel. So every variable has a tag, and this tag is used not only for navigation, but then and also in functionality when you need to like group variables and so on and so on. Also we have, like for example, we have tag changed, which means we have three variables that has been changed, and those tags are automatically implies. Like we will get back to those variables tags later, but right now I just wanted to show you that there is a thing that allows you to add tags to the content settings type. Let me add some of the types to variable. For example, we have tag main, and we have this tag for multiple variables, right? We have tags here, like we have tag main here, and this one, days without fail. Days without fail will also be our tag. So we have three variables with tag main. Again, tag is not applied automatically. Again, you need to go back and migrate your data before start using your tags in your database. It shows you that some of the variables has been adjusted. So right now we have new tag main, and by clicking on that we can filter by the tag. We have after we can filter on the tag, and by the search line we can filter by the tag and multiple tag applied. So that's kind of typical functionality. Also when you start getting more and more variables, the tag that will be kind of require you to have your own tags or like marks, and for example those variable I will be using all the time, those two. So let's have it marked, and so I can filter by this variable and see by this tag and see only variables that I mark. Those are tags that applied and saved for the current user who are watching right now, who are using the site right now. So those are the tags, and the later you will understand that those kind of attributes such as tags, etc., they will start growing like and you will need to organize somehow your code and your settings. In order to organize your settings, we create a context managers for content settings, and those are context defaults, for example. Context defaults. So what's the context manager context defaults do? It create default values or default attributes for your types. So let me show you how does it works. First we need to import content settings, content manager, import context defaults. And with context defaults, we will say tag main. Now, all of the variables that inside of this context will have a tag main as a default tag. And we can remove those tags. So that's kind of, those are in context of this context, which defines a default attribute for the tags main. So every time when you create the type, it will have a default tags main. Very convenient, and your code become much smaller for organization. Let me show you how it works. You see, nothing changed. Nothing changed. So the tags are still as it expected. You see, mine same in the same place. So nothing has changed. So let's say you want to, if you are still in this context, you wanted to add one more tag. And the reason why I'm focusing on the tags so much is because the tags are also important part of your variables, or they will help you not only navigate by the variables, but give your content settings additional functionality, I would say, that can be used in your code in the future. So for example, for this, I will want to add one more tag. Let's say HTML, right? So this HTML, and I want to make sure that HTML tag is here. Let's see how it works now. First, we change the tag. We need to migrate the variables. It shows the title adjusted. Let's change the main, and we see now the main has 2 tags and HTML1. The reason for that is the definition of default values, and the default values has been overwritten by the actual items in the tag. So what should we do for that cases? If we want to still keep the tags main, but give the variables or give your types the opportunity to still have their own tags on top of the one you created, we have this this function called add tags. You can, by the way, see what other things and context you can use in your context manager, context defaults. For example, you can update help text for every help text inside of this, but we will use, just for demo purposes, we will use only one. So that will be add tags here. Simple as that. And let's go and migrate. It says that alter table after title has been updated. Let's go back here and we will see that now it works correctly. We have 3 variables into the main tag and one variable into HTML tag. So, and again, it's very easy and very simple to navigate such kind of variables and adding such kind of tags um, into your settings. The next thing I wanted to show you is that we go through the template, we go through the actual code, how it could be used in the code, like in this URLs. Oh, sorry, it's wrong URLs. I'm open the content settings. So here is the how we use it in code. Even we use it as a lazy variable. Now let's go and check how you can use it in APIs actually. And for API, as you remember, we set up a path that as it was required for the help guide, right? That it says that you wanna to use your variables into your APIs, you need to set up the URLs. Let's go and test it. So for example, we have this, what we have? We have title, right? And let's go and check. Oh, sorry. It requires speech. Yeah, it shows that permission denied as by default your variables are has a default permission that they can be edited by any staff, but nobody can view it through the APIs, which like makes a lot of sense, right? And in order to update your permissions, we have a special module which called permissions. Let me show you right away in the content settings. The model called permissions, and it has any non-authenticated, also some like functions for like or and so on and so on, right? So by default, all of the settings has no permissions. And by the way, while we here and talking about permissions in the content settings, I want to quickly go back and show you what other kind of permissions we have. Like this is the most basic type called simple string, and we have several type of settings. So first is fetch permission, that's for APIs. Then update permission, that's for Django, that allows you to update the variable. View permission, like in view permission you can define who can see actual the variable, like who will see this variable listed into Django. And view history permission, it's not by default as it will be taken for view, but you can redefine it and set up specific permission you want to use for update permission, right? So those are like permission functionality, and by default, as you can see, it's none. Also, quick an explanation of what a static method here is that this function has no self argument, so we need to, if we want to assign it to the class attribute, which is done here, you need to make sure you don't forget to add static method. But for when you use it for as an argument for the definition in init function, you don't need to use static method, you just pass none or stuff or whatever. So let's go back and change our content settings for the sun and make sure it is visible for our content settings. And we have types here, context manager here, that's our content settings. Let's do it this way, permissions. And for permissions, we will set up, for example, for title, we will do feed We will say permissions any, right? So anyone can fetch the API and get the value of the title. So you see, now when you fetch the title, it gives you the JSON with key title, and the value is what is inside of this data. Very convenient. Let's check one more thing here. Any and this without fail. Let's say it. This without fail. By the way, you can use minus instead of underscore. You can do is in the same way as it is defined here, so it all works correctly. So don't worry about this one. And also you can see that the type is also int, even though the string it's int, as it's defined as an int in your content settings. So that's kind of cool. But as we hear, it's very rarely when you need to fetch only one content settings. Usually when you open the page and you need to fetch like multiple content settings for your view. And in order to do so, we have fetch settings view, the specific view you can use for fetching content settings, like in multiple content settings. So let me show you. First of all, let's get back to the view of content settings, and it has fetch view, and it has an attribute attrs, which is a list of, or tuple in this case, of attributes that allowed to use. So we can assign multiple attributes to one API. So let's check how it works, right? Okay, this is our project, this is our URLs, and let's do path. Let's say fetch main, and that will be fetch content settings as view, and authors. Okay, I hope I'm not gonna mess here. Let's it be title, let it be after title, and they without fail, right? And don't forget to import it. So from content settings, views, import fetch settings views. That should be it. Let's see how it works. We have songs. We have songs. It still works. Amazing. Fetch main. Actually, I was using it already. So here we have two variables in one API, which is very convenient, right? You just set up variables. The only issue is that we actually set up 3 variables, but see only 2. That's again, the issue here is permissions. We don't have permissions for after title. And you know what? We don't want to set up permissions for every variable. We just do it. We just move it into the context, right? We don't need it. Just leave it here. You see? Small, short variables. The group of the variable, the definition for the group of the variables are in the context manager. Easy to use. And For changing permission, you don't need to change anything. So that now we have everything set it up as it is expected. Also, one more thing, and that can be again explaining you that tag has some functionality. You can say that your content settings here will be fetched, or the data that will be fetched here is used not by like I don't want to count every variable. I want to say that give me all of the variables that has specific tag. Let me remind myself what the function is. Okay, has tag. And again hashtag, and instead of that the order have been changed a little bit, but the rest is the same. So easy as that, and if later you don't need this dazed without fail, you just remove it from the context and it's lost his tag, its tag, and its permission. Easy as that. Okay, let's go next, and also for you to know that you can use your content settings into the tags in your code, so you can get all of the variables that has specific tag, and for that we use a different name, surprisingly. Probably gonna be changed, but I can be sure that with tag. And with tag will filter variables which has only one this specific tag. Very convenient. For example, you can go to manage by shell and get from content settings conf import content settings. Oh, you see, the only difference is that the next value should be uppercased. So you do this always lowercase and this always uppercase. And the variable, since we're already talking about cases, the variable should always be uppercase and can be like even the mix doesn't work. So you want to make sure all of your variables are uppercase. If you use like mix of the cases or lowercase or whatever, the Django content settings just miss your variable and will think that this is not actually the content settings. So that's important to understand. So this is one thing, and another thing is that we have this prefix that we've done as a registrator. So you can start using your own prefixes if you need it. So for example, we have start with, in case you have some variables that has specific prefix that, for example, start with the specific value. So you may want to do this prefix for the for your variables, for your data. So let's do the next thing. And I wanted to show you that some of the variables can be verified, and there is like, it's kind of typical if you are getting the data from the Django form and you just want to make sure that nothing gonna like mess this variable up, and don't put some crazy data into your variable. And there is some attribute that you can assign to your variable called validators. And this is the list of functions, and this function this is a list of function, and it accepts only one argument of the function, and that's value of the variable already converted. So if we will use 5 here, we will as an attribute for the function that validates this value, we will get 5 as a value. So we don't need to reconvert it again. So let's create a variable def. Let's do it positive value. In case the value is not valid, we need to raise validation error. So if value lower than 0, we need to raise validation error. I think this should be positive. Should be positive. I hope I recall correctly, and it is in Django core exceptions import validation error. Wow. Okay, let's make sure that this kind of thing works. So let's remove. We have days without fail 4, and let's do -1. Okay, days without fall. We forgot to add to validation, and also none is allowed for the value. So we need to make sure that it is for if value is not none and value 1. Let's do -1. Let's wait until it's restarted. -1 should be positive. Yep, so that's it works in preview, and it works in the error that will be shown. So that's easy as that. And on top of the validators, I wanted to show the additional possibility for extending your types. And for extending types, we have such thing called mixins. It's not we have, it's like pretty typical practice. And mixins allows you to mix, like adding some mixes into your type, so you can use it in the future, right? So one of the mix is like min-max validation mixing. So you can either add min-max validation as a function for validation, or you can just add a min-max validation mixin in your type. Let me show you how to add mixin into your type. And in order to do so, let's first of all roll back our validation that we have here. And the next thing we want to do is to import mixins from settings type mixins, import this one, min-max validation mixin, for example, like this. And in order to mix it, you need to use function mix. So for mixins, from mixins, you need to use mix function, which is this one. And let's do the mix, and we do a mix. And mixins always go first, and then we have this min-max validation. What also mixins adds to your type is actually, let me give me a second. They give you some additional types additional attributes that are now allowed to your type. And for this particular mixins, additional attributes is min value and max value. Let's put min value, and you can, as you can see, you can use none for that. So let's do a min value 0. So min, so it is allowed. And let's see how 0 allowed, and that's works. And let's also add max value, and let's say it 10. It is not possible for you to have so many. Okay, I think can be none. Value cannot be greater than 10. So in that case, we will I will show you more and more kind of mixins that you can use in your content settings, so that the basic idea that mixins allows you to extend standard typing that we have right now. On top, of course, the typing that you can extend by yourself. So let's leave it as 5, I guess. Save. Okay, let's do next. The next thing I wanted to show you is that there might be a chance that some of the variables are not needed anymore in your Django admin panel. You don't want it to be changed in the Django admin panel. But you don't want to change the whole code and removing, for example, we don't need start date right now. The start date is changeable. We change it all of the places, but at some point you don't need it as to be changeable. You just go and take the value from admin panel, move it to here, and just leave it as a constant. That's it. After that's weird. After that, start date is no longer here. It is here as it was used. And when you do immigration, it will be also removed from the days without fail, adjusted as we move it, and the start date has been removed as we requested to have it in content settings. And the next thing I wanted to show you is content settings. This start date remove, and that remains as a constant. Very easy. In that case, the synchronization of data wouldn't be used in any type, and so on. The next thing I wanted to show you is that we have not only simple types, but also like array of types and more complicated types, and that allows you to do some kind of mixing of types. But before we get into this part, I wanted to explain you the fact why how the types are actually works. So for example, if you have an int type like this one, simple int type, and that converts 5 to integer int, right, to 5, and the time when it's converted, it's not when you requested this variable, right? That it has a hash, and the hash is fulfilled at the time when the process started, or at the time when the process checks never requested, checks that do I need to recheck the variable, do we still have it 5, and that's very simple. For a checking, it's just using cache, so it's very fast, and for starting, it's just convert it to 5 as an int and use it as an int. In the same way as the start date, it will be converted once when it started, start the server, but because it's constant, it wouldn't even check if it's updated or no, so it wouldn't be included in the checking process, which is very convenient. Again, it will work fast and so on. So in that case, it doesn't actually matter how complicated your type is actually for content settings. Those will be dealt by when the server is started, and that's it. After that, everything gonna be work fast. If you are using arrays, and then it will work like very fast just for arrays. So let's do a simple array type, which called from content settings types, and this is where we start getting a little bit into simple string list. We start getting into the rabbit hole a little bit, so the types are getting longer. So and simple string list, and let's say it favorite subjects, and we'll say string list help my favorite songs subjects. So this is the simple string list format. Let's just migrate it and see what it will give us. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Favorite subject, it shows you that it has an empty array. So every element is a new line with strip spaces. We remove empty values, and we can use we can comment, and empty values will be removed. So let's say pop and hip hop and jazz, right? And as you enter the data, you see the values that you will use later in your code. Isn't it cool? So for example, hip hop you don't need, just commented it, and that's it. Very easy. Let's see, you have this data created here. Let's do it now here, like we can do UL, and as it is array, we can use our favorite subjects here. Oh, I'm accidentally put it into, we don't need it into APIs for now. Maybe we will add it later. And here we'll have Lee and item. After that, you will see your values updated right away from your database, and that's easy as that, right? Also, let's do another type of variable. And with the simple string, we have typed string list. And the typed means that it's not a simple string list. It's every line that will be used have its type. Let me show you. We have of string list, and let's say type it string list. And for type it, we will use decimal, a simple decimal. And for type it, we need to use line type. Okay, that's all we need, and let's do the let's say it's prices. And do a type it string list. Again, let's leave it empty. And for line type, we will use simple decimal. Let's do this simple as that. Price is created. Prices. So that's each item should be a decimal number with floating point. So as you update your types, as you add some different mixins in the type, you will have a help text updated anytime from 0 to 10, and that was updated just because you add the mixin, and that's updated your help text as well. Very convenient, and will make sure that you're not gonna mess this thing up. So let's take 10, let's take 12, let's take -6, and let's take 1.45 minus 78.08. Isn't it cool? This one we don't need, as we still can use this comment. So now you see the variables as an array of the different types that we have. Okay, and let's do again the same thing with this one. We do prices. I don't know. Let's do prices. Right? Did I messed up? Did I? Tun. Yep. Prices. No, we did not. Okay. And now we have prices, and those are the types that we have, and we can see this here, right? And now there is another thing of the types I wanted to show you is we have prefixes and we have suffixes for the types. So if we have suffixes, the suffix is actually additional functionality on top of the type that you already have. That's kind of complicated, but let me, and that's the reason why we have it in the first place is because very often we have some typical type that we have defined here, and we want to get extra function on top of this type, to use this function. For example, I want to have all of the prices, but in this particular place, I want to show only positive prices. That kind of thing can be easily solved by if function, but if condition is a little bit more complicated and you want to hold the logic of this complexity in one place, such as content settings, you want to use suffixes for the variables. And in that case, the suffix can be defined, and let me quickly jump into the basic. So, do you remember that when I told you that the files converted to the Python value, and in order to convert to the file in Python, we have to Python. function. That function converts string value into the value of the Python objects, no matter what kind of Python object it will be. And in order to do so, but at the time when we give value to the attribute, to the requested attribute, like content settings dot title, we use give function, and give function gives you a flexibility for what kind of data you want to return to the actually user. So the Python, it's actually, in that case, to Python, it's kind of cached Python object, and give is actually what you wanted to give to the user. You can override this function for your type, or you can use mixin. For example, mixin is actually dict suffixes mixin. So that's pretty much do very easy thing. You can define a dict of suffixes, and that suffix will be returned to the value, to your function. Let me show you how it works. So first, let's get back to mixin, and we will have a dict suffixes mixin. And prices, we will have a mix, dict suffixes mixin. Bam. Now we want to define actually the suffixes. The suffixes we want to support, and the suffix attribute will get the Python as it's a function, and it will get the Python object as the input argument, and you need to return it as like what will be returned to the what will be given to the attribute request. And let's say right, it's suffixes, it's a dict, and let's say positive, and it will be lambda value. We will use it. That's kind of simple function v for v in value if v more than 0. Right, that's it. We have we tell that's the no, that's not it. It shows us, yep, I forgot the comma. So that's it. We have a typed string list, which will use simple decimal, and we have mixin that also allows us to use one more attribute, suffixes. And its suffixes, we have a dict positive, and we can define some kind of thing in our positive attributes. And let's first let's make check that the thing stays the same, but now we want to, in the index value, we want to, so the suffix is always lowercase and always start with splitted by double underscore. So we want to use positive suffix for the and that leaves us only positive values. That's it. That's what you want to know about positive values, and what you want to know about how suffixes works. And the suffix is actually the thing that you will use a lot. You may use a lot in your code in order to store some logic in your code, like in your functionality, in your content settings. And suffixes actually gives you like a lot of flexibility here. One more thing I wanted to show you is that suffixes are also very cool for mixins has some admin preview menu, so that allows you to add menu on top of the preview functionality. and the dict suffixes has its own mixing for admin preview. Let me show you. It actually looks very cool, and I'm kind of enjoy using it. Let me, dict suffixes mix-ins, and just replace it. You see, now you have a default. This is how you will, what will you get when you not gonna use suffix, but if you want to use suffix, this is what you will get. So awesome as that, and it's also works as it intended to use. As I said, mixins are very cool functionality for extending very easy your types, and the extension remains in the notation. So that's kind of gives you some functionality at that point. So as I said, you don't care about what kind of data will be, how the data will be converted into Python. You almost like it almost doesn't matter how much time it takes for the conversion. The actual data from the text field to the value of Python, to the Python objects that will be stored for these variables. The value, this object will be stored in the threaded variable. So that's something you shouldn't worry. So why not go further and use some markups? For example, we have different markups. For example, simple YAML. We have simple JSON. We have CSV. You can use CSV for your variables. So you can literally store different type of formats here and use it in your database, and add validators to your database, to your types, so it will validate that the value you store is actually like the data that they stored is actually makes sense. So let's make a simple, for example, you know what? We have this YAML, and the YAML, by the way, requires you to have YAML installed. So I already have it installed, but in case you start using, you need to make sure that this module is installed. It's not the requirements for this package to YAML to be installed. So just for using this particular type, and let's use it. I love this format, very beautiful and very easy to read as well as notate. So let's do some content settings just for YAML. Okay, that's the next step. From content settings, types, markup, import simple YAML. And let's just do nothing crucial, just like that. I wanted to show you. We're not gonna bother ourselves to put some cool explanation of what it is, and that's it. My YAML. By the way, some of the types, and that's also worth to explain, some of the types has their own default tags. You can define the tags in your type, and in our case, our default tag is YAML, and that tag will be overridden by the tag you will define. So make sure you understand that, and that's let's make sure it works. Okay, we have YAML, and let's say it will be name um, Elton, and so like let's say price 1033, or let's say it's 1033 and string, right? So you see it's converted into the dict already. So in your code you will use it as a dict. So that will be your data you will use, just to make sure, you see this. Let me show you. This one I will show you just content settings, my YAML, right? Price 1033, and we have a different type of types, and I don't want to go too deep. Just want to show you, like, we already take too much time, but we have, for example, each mixin, and we move it into this specific module, and the mixin allows you to actually add validators and converters and etc., like assign a type for the complicated types like arrays or dicts that returned by that time. Does it make sense? I will show you. Let me very quickly show you content settings, types, each import, each mixin, and that's will be a mix. Each mixin, simple YAML. That's, and also you need to have keys. So now it also has an attribute each keys, and price simple decimal. That's it. And now it is name Elton John, and the price is assigned the price of decimal. So that will be the type of decimal you want to use. Easy as that. I will save it, just to show you that also we have, we have this type each mixin YAML simple text. This is the hierarchy. You can check time to time just to understand that your value works as they expect it to work. So let's go even further. Like this kind of complex data types you want to use are like, it might be viable, might not, it's different, but some of the function are like very valuable for using, and I will show you why. For example, we have a template type, and I understand we probably go further than you expected, but the template type is actually has a different idea. And the idea is that these Python objects that we created, and it's separate from the object, like from the string. From the string, we convert it into the function. And in content settings, we will just use this function as a result. Like we will either call the function, or we can like use the result of the function when it's called. And so in code it will be just function that will be called when you use this attribute, and that's very convenient. For example, if you want your content settings be, for example, a Django template, so your Django template, when the Python object will be created, it will compile the template from this string. And then when you use this variable, it just render the template and use in your code. And for this kind of tools, we have, for example, Django template. Or if you this Django template no args means that this template will be used without any args, additional arguments for the function. So when you use the attribute, it's just a render template and no additional arguments will be passed for rendering template. Let's create, you know what, I will do even better. I'm not gonna let's use it from content settings, types, template, import Django template, no args. And I will use it, this Django template, no args, instead of this one. So this after title, I want to be Django template, no args. There is one issue with that, is that let's give it rerun, and I will update this one. After title. This is not, we didn't define it as HTML, so it will have simple, first we see the decimal here, and we will have this as a string. If we want to use it as an HTML, there is a different Django template HTML, and that will be also use no args as a basic Django template HTML. Let's see how it changed. Yep, right now we see it differently. So for us, nothing has changed. The same HTML, the same thing that we want to do, but let's the help text for some reason shows after title Django template. Maybe let's do an experiment. Content settings, title, my son, and that's kinda the thing. That's probably some kind of bug where that's about the settings, but in your template without arguments, you can use content settings and settings as possible attributes. And you can now say, for example, P, and you say without fail, content settings, days without fail. 5. That's about content settings, and that shows you the power actually of using the content settings, the biggest power, as it has a variable that is compiled, and later you can update your type. You don't need to change the code. You update your type based on your needs, and the changes are applied. And you see, without fail, 5 days, and then you will update it to like 6 days, and you will see that this updates and in content settings as it rendered while calls and in this type. And that's a very super powerful things that you can use in your content settings. Another thing that you might want to use in your content settings, let's quickly check this type, this math. And this math, that's the math function, as a reminder for you, is using this days without fail variable. Let's get it back here. We might, you know what, let's leave it here. We don't need it. I want to just show you one more tool that you can use in your content settings. For example, your content settings is actually a calculator that calculates like specific value, and that's like, I don't know, this value is important for the user, like, and you want to have time machine. You want to know what was the result of calculation back in the time. So that for this particular reason, we created content settings context. Content settings context. Let me show you here from content settings, content manager, import content settings context. And the idea of content settings context is that in this context, you want to redefine actually in code what will be the value of content settings. And in order to redefine, you need again always use a string, and we can say 17, and that will be redefined for this particular variable for this particular calculation. Even though it's lazy, let's use it here for calculation, and that will be 17, and that will be 6 as it was before. It's very useful for first of all, it's definitely going to be used in testing. When you create your tests, you want to make sure your tests work correctly for different settings, values. And this kind of context settings allows you to test it. Different values, this code to test the code for different content settings. It is context manager, so you can also use it as a decorator for your tests. That's one thing. And another thing is that, for example, this is a complex calculation, and in this part you can query a value from the history module, from your history content settings module, in order to understand what was the value of a variable, for example, 3 years ago. And in 3 years ago, you can get like was the value was calculation, and recalculate the price or some like attributes for this particular user in case of like refund or reordering the same, or he want to reorder the same order, but the calculation of this order was done by using specific content settings. And in order, so you don't need to go back to the time and understand what was the content settings, this can be part of your logic of recalculation, and that is super useful and can be super useful in the future. I don't want to go too deep in your templates, but just want you to give an understand. One more thing I wanted to show you. Okay, in Django template, in the context of template, and I wanted to show you the function I'm actually using a lot for actually the templates. But in order to do so, I probably take a little more time, but this I think super cool feature. I want to. Actually, there are multiple cool features. We have 2 left, and then we go through the settings. If you want to make a pause, take a pause, and we will go further. So let's create a different artist. Like for example, Eminem, and let's. My name is, and we will have. I'm already tired. and I think it was Rocketman. Okay, we have two artists, free songs. Nothing unusual, and I just wanted to show you how also the content settings works with the model you created, which is very powerful tool for you. So this kind of for this particular content settings, first of all, let's just put we have this template, and let's add a query of the models into our template. We will take models, import author. Right? Artists, sorry. This is like long, non-stop video. Okay, and we will do artists. Oh no, that's, we want to do extra context. I think that's the name, artists. Artists, objects, all. I think, let's make sure. And this is our YAML, and we will do artists. And again, we will do artists. Again, 4, and it will be artists. I'm a little bit tired already, and it will be name. Okay, and tune. Hopefully it works. Yep, that works. I also only want to make sure I set artists. Let's do it in. So this value is not lost. Okay, artists, Eminem and Elton John. What I wanted to do now, I wanted to make a template, Django template, but that template will be used for this particular object, for the object artist. And that has a lot of useful features, and let me show you how it actually works. Now, for that, let's first pick the module I wanted to use, and that will be Django model template, and it will be Django model template HTML. So it will be HTML and for a specific module. That's from templates, and we will say, we will call it artist line, and it will be Django template HTML, and that is from template Django template HTML. And the artist line, it's like the what is the line of the what will be the yeah, just this, just what is artist, what is inside of this line. And what we wanted to put here is the module itself. Oh no, we need Django template mixing. That has two attributes. First is query set, like what kind of modules allows you, like allowed to be used in the template, and what the name of this, what will be the name for this, for the variable in the template. So I will, no, that's not this way. Yeah, I'm already a bit. Okay, So the Django model template HTML right now contains, like, let's say this one, the name of the variable will be artist, and the model query set will be we need to import this from models, import artist. It will be any artist. The reason why we have a model query set here is because we need to have a preview of how the HTML will work for this particular artist. We do migrate. That has some adjustment for multiple values. And let's get back to content settings, and this is our and we say artist name is awesome. And sorry, wrong click, and it has artist songs count songs. You already see the preview for the particular template, how it will look for the artist. Now we want to use this variable into template. And the issue right now with this particular variable is that it's actually a function. The function that gives as an attribute an artist. In order to use functions in your template, we just create a very simple function, very simple template tag called content settings call. And that's part of content settings extras. Let's import it. And use it here. The name of the variable is artist line, and the argument is item. That's it. We have a template that will scold multiple times to show this particular user. Pretty cool. The function actually, by the way, as we use HTML, we can still use HTML in your template. I'm not gonna show you. The last one thing I wanted to show you in order to like start closing the section of what is the content settings is and why we how and why we're using it is user-defined content settings. And user-defined content settings is when we allow user to create own content settings inside of Django admin. As I said before, we have a lot of functionality for creation. We have a lot of functionality for tagging, for grouping variables by started by one value, or it has a part of it is in particular tag, and so on and so on. And you are allowed to use your content settings inside of other content settings, as for example in Django template. So why don't we have a content settings that can be defined and created inside of Django template and not defined into variables. And Another reason to have this kind of settings is, for example, you have a front-end team and they already need some content settings created so they can adjust the API. They are just allowed to create those variables first, and then when you get back, you can recreate or define those variables in code and start using it in your code, which is also very convenient in future development. So in order to define variables in your code, you need to use settings, and the settings is content settings user defined types. Let me create one. We go to the we are in content settings, those are settings, and let's create a variable contents. And this content settings, every line is what type of content settings you as a Django user allowed to create into their Django admin. And you need to define three values. First of all is the unique flag, for example, text. The second one is the full import line to the particular class, not the variable, but class of the type. And that will be content settings types basic simple text. And the third value is the explanation for the user, for admin. What will be? That will be a simple private text, right? And let's also make an int or bool. Let's make a simple bool. It will be bool. And it was simple private we'll make a not private text private bool. Okay, we have 3 new variables, no errors so far, surprisingly, and that means that after we restart our server, we will see that we have an ability to create variables, to add variables in our so we have 2 types, text and bool, and we for example, let's do a bool. It will be let's do a text, and it will be prefix or my sign. Value will be thank you for watching. Help text just to use, and tags will be user, and you can define, as you can see, for the text you define the value, the help text, and tags you want to use for this, and user define it, and text. That's it. Save and continue editing. So since you right now have my content settings design, you have it here. Where is my sign? It doesn't have a preview as it's simple text, so it's what you see is what you get. Nothing to preview here. But in after title, you can also use it for the preview. And that's it. Thank you for watching. Before we leave, and that's kind of all of the functionality we have, like the core. There are like a lot of things that we skipped, not and a lot of things haven't been shown during this demo, which is already like almost 2 hours long. But I want to make sure I also explain you the settings. So the content settings has a lot of settings already. So let me quickly go over and I will explain you. So first, user defined. You already see the user defines variables. Context processor. This is context process. This is the default attributes for all of the types that you have. So you can define which types you want to see so it's list of dict, and you can define which default types you will use in your so for example, you can set in this context that all of the permission are all editing permission for content settings are for super user only, and that you don't need to use the those kind of thing. I think this is then user tags. As you remember, we have this. Sorry, I'm already for. We have those marks, and you can extend marks here and add more additional. This is the content generated tags. So those function will generate a tag based on the type and the content of the variable. And for example, changed will generate text if the default value and if the variable has a different value from the default value. And that's the thing. Update values by migrate. That means that the values, when you migrate the function, when you call manage by migrate, that will also migrate content settings. You can turn this this function off and use just the command called static content settings set new values. That has some benefits, such as you can see the values, you can preview values before apply, preview what will be changed. So make sure it's not messed up. And another key, very important attribute, values only from DB. That will prevent you from using content settings as not synced from DB database. If you will have this kind of settings, that will raise an error eventually. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. The rest of the variables are defined to the to how cache and will work for your system. To explain you very quickly, so there is a checksum, the value of checksum that will be generated for particular code, and this value will only in a specific key that will store the checksum of the all of the values in your content settings. So every time you run the request, it will double check if the your value that you are looking for hasn't been changed before and stay the same, and then we go further. If it was changed, then I go into the process of checking which value has been changed. So this kind of record is will be updated every time when I go to admin panel and change something, and that will be like a signal for the Django to update, for updation. And so this you can control which kind of cache you want to use, and which kind of cache you want to use, and for how long you want to use, for how long this trigger will be stored. And that's definitely it. Thank you for watching. That was very long video, and have a great day, almost 2 hours. Bye.